Let me start it slow. Let me name down my freakers. So in love with Shelly. Trying to fuck with Mika. Oops, I'm in ocean breeze. Crush him down instantly. I don't sit in Moscato, baby. Here's a glass of Hennessy. Give him shit. Mario, we going down, they barely breathe. Take that ass to ecstasy. Next mission is Shelly D. Treat it like we wrestling. I'm here to bring the pain. Rip that ass in half. Take a bite of Mika Swain. That means I'm exploring. Hopefully not boring. Lately I done had my eye on Miss Heather Victoria. Very educated. Call that Carolina head. I know Candy K. Get that Carolina bread. From Michelle to Raquel. At night I be dreaming. My baby mom stressing on a nigga that he's scheming. I got a taste for him. All my fellas understanding. Sweet tooth fiending for a Carolina fantasy. Carolina fantasy. Carolina fantasy. Man, I hope to God you that Carolina fantasy. Carolina fantasy. Carolina fantasy. Man, I hope to God you that Carolina fantasy. Carolina fantasy. Carolina fantasy. Man, I hope to God you that Carolina fantasy. Carolina fantasy. Carolina fantasy. Man, I hope to God you that Carolina.
I'm his Carolina fantasy. Laying on his chest, kiss my forehead while I'm asleep. See, him is where I wanna be. Rub and kiss and touch it, damn, I hope that he will marry me. That's my Carolina, it's running as crazy as it seems. And yes, I'm a Raleigh chick, I fuck a European nigga, cause I heard they got the Whirlpool stick. He John and Wally hurting. You better be smart when it comes to knowledge. Boys give you the biz, make you use Cat and Charlie. I went to middle school with Privy Tarantino. Now we got a cute swag and a sexy ass demeanor. See Mark on the street, so he put me on his beats. He called me Kneep when he hit me in his sheets. Still get that phone call from my ex. I'm in Raleigh, he's gone. What's our next? Moved on to the next. He said I'm always on his mind like Carolina, but his fantasy is in it cause I'm fucking with the dollars.
Carolina fantasy. Carolina fantasy. Man, I hope to God you that Carolina fantasy. Carolina fantasy. Carolina fantasy. Man, I hope to God you that Carolina fantasy. Carolina fantasy. Carolina fantasy. Man, I hope to God you that Carolina fantasy. Carolina fantasy. Carolina fantasy. Man, I hope to God you that Carolina. Okay, Tiny T, she the boss with County, bout to lay her right. Nikki, she too hot, so I splash her with that flavor sauce. Fantasia, if you're listening, I need you. You're flaming like a fever. That's praises to a diva. From High Point to Henderson, Charlotte to Wilmington. It's easy cause y'all beautiful, like you mini rippers. Every chicken RDU, smoke that ass like barbecue. LP models, popping bottles all on top of you. They understand who is the man. Skinny nigga, but I still need Carlita Duran. My man, you got to know if that thing's curvaceous. Call that shit stolen base, cause Maddie bout to take it. Break it down, roll it up. You my passenger. Maybe I should dip the derm and read poems out the Azure. Ain't no disrespect, and I hope y'all understanding me. Ladies and gentlemen, my Carolina fantasy. Carolina fantasy. Carolina